Hello, all you lovely people. I feel like it has been so long since I've had a chance to read a story to you. So I chose one of my favorite books today called Ada Twist, Scientist. And you can tell that it's a loved book from the classroom because it's a little ripped up. It looks like we've read it a lot. Our story is by Andrea Beauty and it's illustrated by David Roberts. Ada Twist, Scientist. Ada Marie, said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound and sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak. As Ada grew bigger, she did not speak. Clearly, young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it out to be said. And that's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply said, "Why?" That's her first sound, first word. Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why do we call it a grandfather clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? What are these hairs up inside of your nose? She started with why, and then what, and then how and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was all about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Why? What? How? When? Why? Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. So here's all kinds of questions. What is it for? What does it do? Why want it? Why does it? How? Why does it? Can I? When? Where? What? When will it? What if? Will it be the same? So she's asking question after question after question. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the great traits of a scientist. She's doing lots of exploring. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie," said Ada, which got her thinking. What is the source of this terrible stinking? How does a nose now know something to smell? And why does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start where she'd out to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was a moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. Hypothesis, you probably know from Mr. A, is like a good guess about something in science. Then zowie, the stink stuck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it is caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She stared again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" She's about to put the cat in the washing machine to see if that's the stink. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now by the time we count 3. Enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said, "No." What? Ada quivered. Her father said, "Go! You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think." She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and that cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of the success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was that source of all that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked two. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions could result in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She stared at why, and then she asked what, how, and when, and at the end of the hall, she reached why once again. So she's trying to come up with what that terrible stench could be. Her parents calmed down and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. They're like, no patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was the great thinking wall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was all about? They smiled and whispered, "We'll figure it out." And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and a heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asked lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. So now they're starting to help come up with the answers. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question, and somebody, who knows? The end. All right, I think this is a great one about how we can learn to do things. Sometimes it takes us a while. It took her a while to start talking, but when she did, she had tons of things that she was wondering about. It's important to ask questions and think about things, just like Ada Twist the scientist did.